Being in Southeast Asia is probably the best place to live right now. We've been to Thailand, all right, been to Vietnam, been to Malaysia. It's probably the best place to be right now for a couple of reasons. Cost of living is always big, especially if you come from the Western Hemisphere of the world. Your Americas, your Canadas, your UKs, your England, your Australias, your New Zealands, stuff like that. So cost of living is big, especially if you have a family, if it's multiple dependents in your family. The second thing is medical care, medical institutions, healthcare altogether. We have travel insurance, but for doctor visits, paying co-pays and stuff like that, it's next to nothing to afford, regular checkups and or regular medication, especially for our son who has autism. So medical institutions, clinics, doctors, physicians, and obviously medicine is, night and day from being in the States, right? The third thing is assimilation, right? I am a Black American. I am looked at differently because it's not normal for Black Americans, or it wasn't as normal as it's tending to, as it's trending to be, right? I don't want to say the word trend because that sounds like a fade, but more Black Americans are moving to the side of the world, not just traveling to, right? They're relocating. The Black American population is getting bigger. However, there's more of a welcoming, your skin is different. So people could appreciate that. People could appreciate maybe, because you're from America. There's no, unsecure feeling of coming over here. It's rather accepting for most cases. The number 4 thing I would say is it's great for families. There's a lot of international school. Yes, it's pretty expensive, especially coming from public schools or even some private schools in America. It's pretty expensive comparably because everything else is cheaper, and they make getting that education, primary, secondary, and or IBM education here the standard, to basically set their people up, for more opportunities, whether it's going to be in country or whether, they're going, to places, in Asia, or they're going to even places in America. The education is set up on an international base. And visiting a couple international schools, we see why it makes sense. Even if you have kids like we do with special needs, right? ASD, Asperger's, things of that nature that can't put them in a typical setting. They have a lot of more things than we've noticed. A lot of options for clinics, institutions. They run IEPs here, in these different countries and these different cities, guys. Like, there's a lot of options, especially if your budget is flexible to take your kids, even with special needs, abroad, right? There's services like nannies, and kid care. So that's just abundant, guys. Daycare, preschool, that's all abundant. It's not breaking the bank. Another thing attached to families is, the malls, restaurants, like just public places are very kid friendly. All these malls we go to have kid areas, play areas, It's the nuance of just really making it kid friendly is just there. It's accepted to have children in places like this. That's been really eye opening for my wife and I, guys. It's like, wow, because you always hear about traveling, or when you've heard about traveling, you don't really hear about kids coming. You're single or you're in a relationship with some friends, and they're the ones traveling. I really want to expose this stuff because it's just a hidden gem, The food, the culture, there's fireworks happening all the time, especially here in Malaysia. There's just fireworks like every day since we've been here, guys. We've been here for, over 4 weeks now. There's a sense of peace, People, for the most part, they mind their business. They look at you, because you're a little different, right? The difference in a place like Southeast Asia is most people in these regions, like most people in these countries, in these states and cities, all look similar, right? Outside of the expats and foreigners, So you're gonna get looked at. That's one of the knocks, but like everything else, like the infrastructure, the new age technology, right? The convenience and the inclusiveness of just having your life set up in kind of a one-stop shop is all around here, guys. I guess the last thing would be, when I kind of touched on, is essentially safety and security. The threat of people, the threat of gangs. One, we're never going to put ourselves in a position to where we feel vulnerable in our environment. There's places that all over the world, all over the globe, you shouldn't go to. But there's a lot of places here, just being in Southeast Asia for our short time, that we go to, and we go to at night, any type of day. We could walk at night, we feel peaceful, we feel safe, right? We still lock our doors. It's just things that we're accustomed to. But there's times where, we forgot to turn the knob. There's times where we forgot to close the gate. There's times where, I got tired of carrying a bag, so we put it down. There's times where I almost forgot my bag and it's still sitting there. It's just, they're just things that we're not used to. Those culture shocks that we're not used to, that can bring a lot of people anxiety. But when you get into it, you're like, man, like, there's no way. There's no way. My family, we live in some of the best places in Florida because we have a family, because we're of darker skin tone. There's just these incredible, ignorant, but real life prejudice there in the States. We're not going through that stuff, guys. People are just readily, wanting us to hop in their cars, go into their homes, guys. It's night and day. So the security, the safetyness, it's there. It's just one of the best places to be in right now. It's my livelihood. It's my wife's livelihood. It's my kids' livelihood. This is real life. We want to prolong our life and be as happy, be as sound, be as healthy as possible. You know what I'm saying? If you guys feel differently, if you guys are experiencing this, let me know in the comments. It's good to hear like-minded people, hear like-minded experiences. If you've been to the Philippines, Laos, Singapore, places we haven't touched down just yet, let us know. We're just excited to keep this going. We're excited just to put more life into this whole matrix. It's beautiful.